What's up, guys? Obviously, it's Captain Obvious, and welcome to the first episode for my new series known as the Armory. This series will entail me covering weapons and reviewing certain weapons in a class. Now, this episode is going to be series details where I'll be talking about exactly what the series is going to entail, how it's going to be working, everything I'm going to be talking about in the series and the episodes. And also, at the end of the video, I'll be asking for your feedback and your suggestions as to how the series is going to run, like I did for yesterday's video, in which I introduced breaking down Battlefield 3. This is going to be a much longer video than that one because there's a lot more to go over in terms of how this series is going to work, because there's so many factors that go into how the weapon works and how the series is going to work itself. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to go over today, and I'm going to start off by telling you guys about a little bit about what the series is going to be about. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'll be reviewing weapons in a class. And the way I'm going to divide it up is by how they behave and how they kind of relate to each other. So I'll be doing 2 or 3 weapons each episode, and I'll be going by a class in chronological order. So, for example, I'll be starting off with Assault, and then I'll do 2 weapons, 3, 2, 2, etc., etc., and then I'll move on to either Engineer, Support, Recon, PDW, Shotguns, Pistols, anything like that. So I'll be doing, once I start a class or a kit, I will continue going on until I finish out that class, and I'll start on another one. That's how it's going to work out. Like I said, 2 to 3 weapons per episode, so it is not extremely long. We'll be reviewing every single weapon. The other reason I'm keeping it down to 2 or 3 weapons per episode is so I can spend more time on them. You know, spend more time reviewing the weapon, get all my opinions into it, how I feel you should use the weapon, how it's going to work when you use it this certain way, talk about attachments and how they're going to affect the way the weapon behaves, and everything like that. Weaponry and choosing your weapon properly for each situation in this game is extremely important now that the patch has come out, and every single weapon has more of a specialist role to it. So the information I give you in terms of attachments and how they change their weapon is going to be extremely important, and I highly recommend focusing on these videos and making sure you remember every single part of what I go over to make sure you have the best information possible and you know what to put on your weapon to make it the most advantageous as possible. So that's pretty much what the series is going to entail per episode. I'm going to go over some other complaints that I received from Battlefield 3 analysis and things are going to be changing in the Armory to make it more user-friendly and make it just a whole lot better of a series to make it amazing. So one of the main complaints from the Armory in the beginning, that is how I didn't use the weapon in, when I was reviewing it. I will be spending a lot of time before I make the episode in using the weapon I'll be talking about. For probably about 2 or 3 days before the episode, I'll be using the 2 or 3 weapons that I'll be covering in all my gameplay. I'll record all of it, get the clips, so I have the most time possible with the weapon, get my opinions right, get all the attachments unlocked. Hopefully I'll be able to get 3 server starts with each weapon to unlock almost all of the attachments for each weapon, so I can give you guys the best opinions and strategies possible for how to use these weapons. That is my plan in terms of using them and getting you guys the best information. I really hope that in using the weapons in this short amount of time, I can still get you guys the best information, but you may notice when I do a review is that if I have so much experience with this weapon, you'll see me talk about it more because I know more about it, I know how it behaves, I know exactly what you're going to be running into when using the weapon with certain attachments. So if I spend more time on a weapon, that's why, because I use it more often, and if I use it more often, obviously you want to use it, because the only reason I use weapons in this game is because they are statistically superior to other weapons. I don't use it because it feels good in my hand. I use it because I get the most advantages out of the gun. I know how to use it well because of the information I know. And I just know how to overall control the gun and exploit its strengths and try to deter all of its weaknesses to the point of not even being relevant. So that's the goal pretty much with this series as a whole, and the goal for me to give to you guys, and pretty much what I'll be aiming for in the series itself. I really want to make sure you guys are able to exploit the strengths and deter the weaknesses the best ways possible. Alright, so there's another complaint I want to mention in this video about Battlefield 3 analysis. The main thing that people were talking about is the information on screen sort of relating to the information I'm talking about. A lot of times there's a discrepancy between the verbal text and the actual on-screen text that you guys visually see. And I'm going to try to eliminate a lot of those discrepancies. I really want to make sure that everything I'm saying is exactly what's being shown on the screen. And one of the reasons for that in Battlefield 3 analysis was the fact that I was putting so much information on the screen at one time that it was hard to actually control what exactly I was talking about at certain times. So one of the things I'm actually going to start doing is I divided all the weapon statistics up into categories. So I'll have certain slides, per se, quote-unquote, of on-screen text pop-ups. And when the time comes around, I'll have the pop-up show up on screen with the text for that certain statistic. So let's say for the first time, I'm going to talk about damage for the first part of the weapon review. And then I'm probably going to move on to rate of fire, suppression, muzzle velocity, and those will all be on one text slide. And then for the next time, I'll switch off of that slide, move on to another on-screen text slide, and then there will be more statistics, and that will be conjoining with what I'm talking about verbally. And by me saying slide, all I mean is on-screen text. I'm saying slide because it's easier for me to talk about. I will not be having slides, so I'll always be gameplay in the background of these videos. Don't worry about that. So that's how it's going to work out. I'll make sure I can conjoin them and make them a whole lot more relevant to each other, so it's a lot easier for you guys to both listen to me and watch the on-screen text and get a better understanding with what I'm trying to say. Alright, now I'm going to go over the actual series and the show process, and what I'm going to be doing for every single show. I'll be doing, like I said, 2 to 3 reviews per video. And the way I'm going to do each review is cover each statistic almost individually, and some will be grouped. So I have a chart on Excel, which I'm going to be looking at every single time I do a video, and I'll be looking at the weapon statistics as well whenever I do a video. I have 2 monitors now, so I can keep iMovie open on one, and the statistics and the timetable on the other. Yes, that's right, I made a timetable for my videos. I've talked to you guys about before how I obsess over making my videos perfect, and I could not help doing that in this series. So I have created a timetable in which I will spend a certain amount of time on each statistic. I have made me almost always follow these statistics to the time that I have it set for. So I'm going to be going over you guys what I'm going to be talking about in the shows, and at the end of this little section is when you guys will come in and tell me what you want me to talk about in addition to what I already have. So I'll be talking about damage. That will be first for about 15 seconds. And then I'll move into rate of fire, suppression effect, muzzle velocity, and the range of the weapon for about 30 to 25 seconds for that section. And then I'll have another slide in which I'll talk about reload. This will be regular reload with bullets, empty reload, threshold reload, and that'll pretty much entail all the reload stuff that I'll have to be talking about. That'll be about 15 seconds. Then we'll be talking about recoil. Recoil is a main part of a weapon. So that'll be about 30 seconds. We're talking about recoil amounts, which will be a generalized word such as heavy, medium, low, things like that. Recoil direction, which will be the main direction in which the gun bounces to, like up and to the left, up and to the right, things like that. And also in that slide, we'll be talking about spread, and this will be a generalized word such as low, high, medium, and that will be both be hipfire spread and ADS spread. Then next slide we'll be talking about magazine size for about 5 seconds, which will be extended mag size for weapons that apply to that, and your regular magazine size. Then for about 45 seconds to a minute, we'll be talking about the recommended setup for the weapon. That means the recommended attachments and how I recommend you using it. And then for the last part of the weapon review, we'll be talking about additional tips and the advice I will give you regarding the gun in terms of situations, strategies, anything that I can tell you as how to use the gun to your advantage. And that's pretty much it. And that's the timetable I'll be referring to every time I make a video. Now, that'll take probably about 3 minutes to 3.5 minutes for each weapon review. I feel that gives it enough time for me to get all my information in. So now I want to ask you guys to give me any suggestions as to what information you want to cover in these videos regarding each weapon. I want to try to keep it at least below 4 minutes, so give it a little thing, not something that'll take about 30 seconds to a minute to cover. And that's pretty much it for all the things I require of you guys. I hope you guys are looking forward to the Armory when it comes out, hopefully next week, which like I said, for breaking down Battlefield 3, next week is a tentatively scheduled start date for this series. And by tentatively, I mean, if nothing goes wrong, it will start next week on 1 week from today, which will be the 25th of April, which is a Wednesday. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the Armory, and remember to answer all my questions and requests in the comments section. It's going to help out a lot. Twitter, Facebook links are in the description. And as always, rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.